Welcome to the third edition of Nigeria Today News. We will be talking about road to economic development in Nigeria. Afam, it's over to you.
Thank you, Oyiza Adi. The World Bank has said COVID-19 pandemic-induced inflation pushed about 23 million Nigerians into a food crisis in 2021. The Washington-based bank said this in its latest Commodity Markets Outlook report in reference to the global report on food crisis. According to the lender, rising food crises have heightened food insecurity in emerging markets and developing economies, especially due to food import dependence from Ukraine and Russia. It further stated that before the war in Ukraine, the COVID-19 pandemic had triggered food insecurity across the world. The World Bank report read in part, rising food prices have increased food insecurity in most emerging markets and developing economies. It could increase even more given the reliance of a number of emerging markets and developing economies on food imports from Ukraine and Russia. According to the Global Report on Food Crisis, an estimated 161 million people were facing a food crisis or worse in 2021, up from 147 million in 2020. Populations facing a crisis with conflict include Nigeria, with 23 million people, Ethiopia, 16 million, Yemen, 16 million, and more. The permanent representative of the U.S. mission to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Agencies, Ambassador Cindy McCain, gave the warning at a press briefing in Rome, Italy, noting that Ukraine had been a major source of wheat for over 138 million people in more than 80 countries, including Nigeria. According to her, before the war, over 40% of wheat, corn, and fertilizer exports from Ukraine went to the Middle East and Africa, which are already grappling with hunger. Over now to Oyiza Adi.
Looming food crisis from diverse source points to a debilitating food insecurity crisis in Nigeria that may push the country further into fragility. The African Development Bank declared that hunger had become a way of life in the country and other African countries. The federal and state governments must therefore take strong measures to elevate hunger. Thousands of Nigerians have been killed in decades. Long clashes between Algerian community and nomadic cattle herders who are fighting over limited access to water and grazing lands. The farmers often accuse the herders of encroaching in their field, while the herders, mostly from the Fulani ethnic group, claim the cropland as their traditional grazing routes. Despite the violence, Nigerian farmers have been able to produce enough crops to keep the country self-sufficient in staples such as rice, cassava, and yams. The governor of Benue State, Samuel Otom, said the farmers are doing their utmost best to feed the nation. Farmers are resilient but are also afraid because some who have attempted to go back to their farm have been killed. In a statement that the governor also warned that if there is security for these farmers, we will continue to retain our position as the food basket of the nation. But if nothing is done, as it is now, it is a big challenge. Now, let's talk about oil crisis in Nigeria. Nigeria is one of the largest oil producers in the world. At the beginning of 2020, its daily production exceeded 2 million barrels. Nigerian oil production decreased to 1.14 million barrels per day during January 2021, the lowest value recorded in the last years. Poverty and inequality in Nigeria are not due to the lack of resources, but to the ill-use, misallocation, and misappropriation of such resources. At the root is a culture of corruption combined with a political elite out of touch with the daily struggles of average Nigerians. The country has been struggling to stem rampant crude theft in an economy that relies on oil for its foreign exchange. Nigeria loses about 150,000 barrels of oil per day to the individuals who illegally tap pipeline crossing the Niger Delta region, according to the government records. Nigeria lost $3.2 billion in crude oil theft between January 2021 and February 2022, according to the statistic presented at the recently held meeting in Abuja. Between the Nigeria Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission (NUPRC), Oil Producer Trade Section, and the Independent Petroleum Producer (IPPG). Currently, we have only 9 crude oil producing states in Nigeria that could be said to be really harnessing their crude oil potentials. These states include Akwa Ibom, Lagos, Delta, River, Bayelsa, Ondo, Edo, Imo, and Abia. Now, let's talk about economic overview. The Nigerian economy is one of the largest in Africa. Since the late 1960s, it has been based primarily on the petroleum industry. A series of world oil price increases from 1973 produced rapid economic growth in transportation, construction, manufacturing, and government services. In the late 1990s, the government began to privatize many. Now, let's talk about economic overview. The Nigerian economy is one of the largest in Africa. Since the late 1960s, it has been based primarily on petroleum industry. A series of world oil prices increases from 1973 produced rapid economic growth in transportation, construction, manufacturing, and government services. In the late 1990s, the government began to privatize many, especially in communication, power, and transportation, in order to enhance the quality of services and reduce dependence on the government. Most of these enterprises has been successfully privatized by the beginning of the 21st century, but a few remain in government hands. At the turn of the 21st century, Nigeria continued to face an unsteady revenue flow, which the government attempted to counter by borrowing from international sources. In 2020, Nigeria experienced its deepest recession in 2 decades, but growth resumed in 2021 as pandemic restrictions were eased. Oil prices recovered, and the authorities implemented policies to counter the economic shock. Nigeria was highly vulnerable to the global economic disruption caused by COVID-19. Particularly, in 2018, 40% of Nigerians, 83 million people, lived below the poverty line, while another 25%, which is 53 million, were vulnerable. The number of Nigerians living below the international poverty line is expected to rise by 12 million in 2019 to 2023. The COVID-19 crisis continued to disrupt Nigerian labor markets. While it now exceeded pre-pandemic levels, improvement has been primarily due to workers turning to small-scale, non-farm enterprise activities in retail and trade, the revenues of which remain precarious. Nigeria's economic outlook remains highly uncertain. While Nigeria has made some progress in socio-economic terms in the recent years, its human capital development ranked 150 to 157 countries in the World Bank 2020 Human Capital Index. The country continues to face massive development challenges, including the need to reduce the dependency on oil and diversify the economy, address insufficient infrastructures, build strong and effective institutions, as well as addressing governance issues and public financial management systems. Let's see the effects of low economy. In terms of income and opportunities, it remained high and has adversely affected poverty reduction. The lack of job opportunities is at the core of the high poverty levels, regional inequality, and social and political unrest. The containment measures mainly affected aviation, tourism, hospitals, restaurants, manufacturing, and trade. High inflation has also taken a toll on household welfare, and high prices in 2020 are likely to have pushed to additional 8 million Nigerians into poverty in 2022. In addition, flooding and rising insecurity could hamper agricultural production. High unemployment 27%, poverty 40%, and growing inequality remain a major challenge in Nigeria. Nigeria's financing requirements require improved domestic revenue collection. Now, let's take a look at Nigeria's major economic sectors and see what is going on with our industry, agriculture, mining and services industries in Nigeria. The largest industry which drives the country economy and accounts for the bulk of its annual GDP are its petroleum, tourism, agriculture, services and mining industry. The agricultural sector is 25.08% of the GDP, trade sector 16.86% of GDP, mining sector 9%, and the real estate sector is 6.85% GDP. Dominates Nigeria economy. There was also a significant growth in the financial service, communication and entertainment sectors. The services sectors consisting of telecommunications, financials and other services is the largest sector in Nigeria. Although it saw a light decline accounting for about 54.39% of the GDP in 2020. Nigeria is known for its status as the largest country in Africa by population. Additionally, with a GDP of about $1.118 trillion, the country has the largest economy on the continent and among the largest in the world. The biggest industries in the country also employ a large number of country workforce, with the agricultural industry alone employing about 30% of country's total labor force. This industry are also responsible for the bulk of the country's exports. The chief export commodity from Nigeria include petroleum, chemicals, palm oil and cocoa. The total exports from the country are valued at $40.81 billion each year. Now, let's talk about the agricultural industry in Nigeria. Nigeria ranks 6th worldwide and the 4th in Africa in farm output. The sector accounts for about 18% of GDP, and industry is also an important source of employment for millions of Nigerians, as it employs about 30% of country's labor force. Nigeria has 19 million head of cattle and largest in Africa. Although Nigeria is no longer a major exporter due to the local consumer boom, it is still a major producer of many agricultural products, including cocoa, granules, peanuts, rubber, and palm oil. Cocoa production, mostly from obsolete varieties and average trees, has increased from around 180,000 tons annually to 350,000 tons. Agriculture is one of the most dominant industry in Nigeria. Most of the country's agricultural production is carried out in the southern parts of Nigeria, which has ideal climatic condition for the agriculture. The northern part of the country is largely dry and primarily supports herding of livestock. Major agricultural products include cassava, corn, cocoa, millet, palm oil, peanut, rice, rubber, sorghum, and yams. In 2003, livestock production in order of metric tonnage featured egg, milk, beef, and veal, poultry, and pork respectively. Oil palms are among the chief export agricultural commodities in Nigeria. The country produces an estimated 8 million tons of oil palm each year, and the bulk of which is destined for international markets. That will be the conclusion of the first part of our conversation on road to economic development. We will be back on the second episode. Thanks for staying with us. My name is Oyiza Adi.